So go bring up Jen and Stacy. Rich they but then cookie. Party start already. People they in a race. Barang mashing up the place. Sweet music in the air.
7:41 in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, The Power of Movement is a documentary that follows radiation oncologist and choreographer Dr. Niraj Mehta on his mission to increase cancer awareness and treatment as he embarks on healing cancer through movement. Yes, through movement. It's already created a buzz. It's produced and directed by Abelto and Rajesh Felix, both with Trini roots, and they are speaking to us now from the United States. Mr. Abelto at Pembroke Pines in Florida, and Mr. Felix from Dayton in Ohio, where it's probably getting very cold as they start to step into winter and indeed cope with the issues associated with COVID-19. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks very much for joining us. If I could start with you, Mr. Abelto, tell us about this project.
Good morning, by the way. So the Power of Movement basically is about, like you said, Dr. Mehta and what he's trying to do, healing cancer through movement. And it's a project that I really took on after meeting him through my friend Laura. And when she introduced me to him and I found out what he was doing, I did a couple videos with him. And after I just got into what he was doing, I saw this is something that's amazing. And I think this is something that the world should see. And it personal, I had a personal effect with it.
And Mr. Felix, tell us about your involvement, even as we're looking at some of the promotional video material related to it. Tell us about your involvement in this project, Mr. Felix.
In this movie, I was the exec producer, where Aaron's more on set, but I'm more behind the scenes. People always see movies, but they don't notice, like, how do they get them on Netflix? How do they get them on TV? How do you see these movies, and how are they developed? And there's a lot of insurance involved. There's a lot of legal activities. And so I make sure all of that is covered and make sure that, like, Dr. Mehta and the crew that filmed, that they're all taken care of. And just protecting the film itself, making sure that the message, when it's out there, it's safe and sound from a lot of behind the scenes things that happen that a lot of people don't notice about.
And I suppose in that sense, Mr. Felix, sometimes the story behind the scenes is as interesting or probably even more interesting than the story you tell yourself.
Yeah, I could say it's equally interesting. And there's always a story of Cinderella behind Cinderella. And sometimes you'll get to hear about it through books. Sometimes you'll just never hear about them at all. But I'm always happy to share my end. And I could also say that Aaron Abelto, he's done a great job behind the scenes. A lot of painstaking, sleepless nights that went into this. Like when you see movies and you see TV series, you see them at their prettiest stage, but what you don't see is those moments where it's 3 a.m. and you're dealing with a different time zone and you're putting out fires, metaphorically, and sometimes physically. But yeah, there's a lot of great stories that can be said. A lot of behind the scene situations whether it's involving tech or it's involving industries of such as medical or PR or communications. It's endless.
And indeed, I mean, and because we have limited time, there are a number of issues we want to discuss with both of you. But Aaron Abelto, sorry, is the documentary out now? Is it available on streaming services?
Yes, it's available right now on the iTunes, the Amazon. So basically the YouTubes, all those major platforms and stuff right now, but the subscription ones come later on, like the major ones like the Netflixes or the Disneys, those come later on, but right now it's just on those platforms. So
was all of this work done during this time of the pandemic?
No, some of it was. The filming was done beforehand, and the post-production part was done during the pandemic time, with the sound mixing and all the extra things that come with making a film. So it was done during that time. But ultimately, 90% of the filming was done beforehand.
It seems to have, Mr. Abelto, quite a bit of a Bollywood finish to it. Would that be correct?
Yes. We had one thing I loved about the documentary is how Dr. Mehta, what he did is he infused his Bollywood background with the Western fusion, with all the salsa, the merengues, all that. It was all about movement in retrospect, how he wanted to encompass that and mix everything, because no matter what in the world today, we are all one. It's not about separating, it's all about one. And that's what he brought to this project.
And Rajesh, Felix, from the point of view of the responses so far, because again, it really depends on who's observing, who's consuming your product, and so on. What sort of reviews would you have gotten from critical analysis? What sort of feedback have you gotten so far, Rajesh, Felix, from this documentary?
I'm really glad you asked that, because that's the one question that all of us always ask ourselves. And we're in the show business, so you're expecting anything can come from anywhere, whether positive or negative, but it's been all positive. I can confidently say that. We've also been rated on Rotten Tomatoes with a positive review, and even on IMDb. It's not hard to believe either, but during this COVID times, it's amazing how our message is reaching so many lives and beyond a positive way. It's actually hitting them, dare I say, in a spiritual way. And I couldn't be more satisfied.
And indeed, and let us, before time runs out on us, we always try to locate our guests, especially if they have a Trini connection, because we understand that Mr. Abelto's mother was from St. James and father from Samoa. Samoa is the greatest place on the face of the earth, so no argument with that. But Mr. Felix, you have Trini roots as well. Tell us about that Trini connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Port of Spain is where it all started with my mom, and then she eventually moved out to New Jersey, and we always visit Trinidad whenever we can. Have a lot of family there, and I miss them all the time. And Trinidad, it's one of the greatest places in the planet.
Well, certainly you won't find too many people want to disagree with that perspective. And before time runs out us, Aaron Abelto, just so we understand clearly, what this documentary is telling us is about a medical professional who talks about actually healing cancer through dance movements. Is that correct, Mr. Abelto?
Yeah, with the aspect of not just healing healing the physical aspect, more of the mental aspect. Because when we go through any type of illness, whether it's something you're going through, we always think about the physical part. We never think about the mental aspect of it, of how a person is going to feel. And that's what Dr. Mehta is really going for, is the physical and also the mental aspect. Because without our mentality, we're not human. We're not here.
Absolutely. That is so much a part of it that we often ignore while we talk about, as you said correctly, the physical side of it. The mental side of it is so important. And finally, a word from Rajesh, Felix as well. I suppose at the end of the day, you would always like to have that final opportunity to tweak based on budget and so on with the production. But at the end of the day, are you completely satisfied, Rajesh, Felix, with the final product?
Yeah, I can actually say that. And which is not easy to say with all products that come out in the movie industry. Like in the background, you're also dealing with investments and private equity that helps fortify the film. And I think just when people just view it, it definitely proves that it was financially stable in all its ways. And any extra bit that had to be put in, especially during the COVID times, we just want to thank all of our sponsors. You guys have been wonderful, and that belief level, during these COVID times, it makes more of a difference than when the market's up. So thank you all.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us this morning. I know it's even earlier morning for you all in the United States than it is for us here in Trinidad and Tobago, and indeed all success with the documentary, and we'll see how things go moving forward with it. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us this morning.
Thank you.
Rajesh, Felix and Aaron Abelto with us, who involved in the production of The Power of Movement, and indeed already getting some rave reviews for in the category of documentaries, and indeed we'll see if there's anything more on offer as far as that level of recognition. As we go to the next break, here's an image that is submitted by Pope of Santa Flora, and in Santa Flora way he's looking at what I presume to be a sunset. Looks kind of sunsetish with the shades onto the clouds there, but then again I could be very wrong. At 7:51 we'll be right back.